Welcome to the Salvos. We trust that you'll be blessed by this week's video.
Has anyone been watching that TV show called This Time Next Year? This Time Next Year is a fascinating show that Alexa's got caught up in, and there's a video clip I'm going to show you, or piece I'm going to show you quickly. It's just a preview of, before it was shown, this was one of the previews that came up. So if you haven't seen it, or don't know what I'm talking about, this is This Time Next Year. Thanks, mate.
Australia, get ready for the television experience of the year. An incredible, ambitious new show, the likes of which you've never seen before. This time next year, Cal.
I will like how I look in the mirror.
I'm going to have read 1,000 books.
I am going to save my brother's life.
This time next year, I'll be able to hear my children say I love you for the first time.
Right before your very eyes. You'll see amazing before and after transformations of everyday Australians.
1 year's transformation.
This time next year, I will walk down the aisle.
Will be revealed
This time next year,
I will be half my body weight.
in minutes.
Leave through this door and return moments later through this door. 12 months in the blink of an eye.
I was perfectly healthy and had 20/20 vision. Went to sleep that night, woke up the next morning, and 98% of my vision had disappeared overnight.
She said to me, "Are we going to die today, Mum? I don't want to die today." This time next year, we will rebuild our family home.
We've been trying now for nearly 5 years.
You go through the scans, it hasn't got a heartbeat, and you're devastated.
This time next year, we will have a baby.
It's a terminal diagnosis.
Will I be here by this time next year? I don't know. You know what? We're going to make a bucket list and we're going to get ticking it off. You never want to take hope away from children.
Life-changing is an understatement.
The highly anticipated new show is here.
I didn't see that coming.
Quite a fascinating show. We watched a little bit of it, not much, but so obviously this show's been in progress for a while. They filmed probably 18 months ago of all these people declaring what they wanted to do within 12 months. And then 12 months later they came back and said if they achieved it or not. So there's some people there was 2 people that had been trying to have a baby for 5 years without success. And they declared that this time next year, we're going to have a baby. It's a big thing for some people, and they fail and fail and fail. But they came back 12 months later with 2. They're twins. So it was a happy story, a very happy story, and sleepless nights. But it was a good story though, wasn't it? And there was another lady there that had an accident. She fell off the balcony and broke her back and wasn't able to walk. And she declared that in 12 months' time, I'll be back here and I'll be able to walk. That's a big thing. Yeah, just 12 months later, she was able to very slowly able to walk up to the couch with walking sticks, and she was able to do it though. She set her mind to it and was going to do it. But she declared that she was going to do it. And there was a few other really good ones. There was a little boy. He was about 9 years old, 10 years old, 7 years old, so he was even younger. And he declared that in 12 months' time, I'm going to have read 1,000 books, and 1,000 new books, like big books too, not just like kids' books. And he came back in 12 months' time and actually read a little bit more than 1,000 books. So that's almost like 3 books a day, 3 big books a day. Like it was crazy. I can't read 1 book in 5 years. But he declared that, and all these people were declaring within 12 months what they were going to achieve. And if you set your mind to it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? So making declarations, I'm not sure what you think about making declarations. First up, if you've heard politicians do them before or what, but some people go, well, all right, he's just making another declaration. He's in Parliament, that's nothing. But again, so it can be a big thing if you declare things. By definition, a declaration must be declared. You just can't keep it in your head, can you? If you're going to make this big announcement or whatever, you just can't keep it to yourself. So by definition, a declaration must be declared. Have you made a declaration before? Anything like that, or made a promise or something like that? Or some sort of confession? But I was trying to think over history, what sort of declarations have there been throughout history? I've looked up a few of them. One of them I found, Winston Churchill made a few declarations back during the war. You know, anything like that pop to mind? Winston Churchill got up at one stage and said, "We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France, we shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and on the streets. We shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." You know, these big people got up and made declarations like this, and people were going, yeah, we're with you all the way. There's some people, inspirational people. And even one of the biggest inspirational people in history was actually Adolf Hitler. He made big declarations and people followed him. Not always the right way, and he led some people down the wrong path, but he still made big declarations and people followed him, didn't they? There's another big declaration, I'm not sure if this has come to your mind, but the Declaration of Independence. Have you heard of that before? It's a big thing that the Americans love and live by. And one of the points I'll read from the Declaration of Independence was, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with uncertain and inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whatever any form of government comes destructive of these ends, is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, or to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles, and organising its powers in such form as to them shall seem the most likely to affect their safety and happiness." And so all these people that have made declarations, and even countries made things like the Declaration of Independence. Another one that stuck in my mind, even though I wasn't around to hear it, was John F. Kennedy. Do you remember his big speech that we're going to go to the moon? Was anyone? No, I wasn't around, obviously. But I'm too young. But that was a big speech, wasn't it? That he declared by the end of this decade, we're going to be on the moon. This was back in like 62 maybe, 61, 62. And by 69, by the end of the decade, they actually did go to the moon. So he made this big declaration of something that they'd never done before, that seemed really, really out there. It almost seemed impossible for the time, didn't it? Is that what it was? Back in the time, it was impossible. Because no one had ever done it before. But he declared by the end of this decade, we will go to the moon. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And they did it. I did have a video clip, but I don't think we need to show it, do we? Nah, sorry. So that was a big declaration that, it was almost really, really out there, and they achieved it. How about that guy called Trump? He made a big declaration a couple of weeks ago against North Korea. Declarations can be good, they can also be a bit weird or a bit out there, but we'll scrap over that one too. But it was a declaration. And the one I mentioned earlier about the William Booth I'll fight declaration, or women weep in darkness, I will fight, or men going to prison in and out, I will fight, or there's someone hungry, starving on the street, I will fight, or there's one last dark soul without the light of God, I will fight. That's a pretty cool, I love that declaration. That was very encouraging for me, especially as a younger guy a few years ago. But declarations are powerful things. And today we read about Peter's declaration. Some Bibles talk about Peter's confession, but I think the ones where it talks about Peter's declaration sort of gives you a bit more definition for me. So in today's reading, let's read that before. It starts by saying, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do the people say that the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. So he's sort of asking them who the people were saying that the Son of Man is, who Jesus is, who is he? Who do you say that I am? Is the next question he's about to say. So the big question in verse 15, if you're following along, verse 15 says, but Jesus says, but how about you? What about you, he asked. Who do you say that I am? Now I think we can't really scrape across this part, this verse 15. Because this is probably one of the biggest verses in the Bible, and probably one of the biggest questions that we're ever going to be asked. So if I asked you today, for example, who you say that I am, me, Simon, you probably might come with a whole lot of titles like, oh, you're the bar officer, you're the captain, you're a good bloke. Some of you might say that. Others who are here during the week might say it's a bit of a pain in the butt. But if I asked, you'd probably give me a whole lot of titles and all some experiences of your conversations with me, wouldn't you? So if I asked you, who am I? Who do you say that I am? You'd probably say a few things like that, wouldn't you? Oh, you're the bar officer, you're the guy that's sort of doing all the paperwork for this place. But when Jesus asks, if you can imagine Jesus standing in front of you, asking you, who do you say that I am? This is seriously probably the biggest question you're going to be asked throughout all of eternity. Because your answer decides some pretty big things, doesn't it? Could you imagine Jesus standing in front of you saying, who do you say that I am? I remember an interview quite a few years ago now with Bono, the lead singer of the band U2. Do you know who I'm talking about, Bono? He sort of had this bit of a dialogue during an interview that was sort of talking about Jesus, because he has a pretty big faith. And he was talking about Jesus. He's going, Jesus, if he was who he said he was, that's a big thing in the start. Either he was who he says he was, and was the Son of God, or he was an absolute loony. Because he made some pretty big declarations of his own, didn't he? Jesus said, I am the Son of God. That's pretty big. He said, I could raise the dead. He did all these things. He raised the dead, he healed the blind, he got people who couldn't walk. He was able to give them legs to walk on, though they'd never walked on before. So he backed up a lot of his declarations with actions, though, didn't he? So who was Jesus? Was he this crazy man who spoke crazy things that upset the church? Or was he actually the Son of God, as he said he was, and showed he was? But one day I believe Jesus is going to stand in front of all of us and ask us this question. Who do you say that I am? How are you going to answer? Think about it, because I don't think it's something that you should answer lightly. When Jesus asked, Jesus, who I believe is the Son of God, stands before each of us and says, who do you say that I am? How are you going to answer? Because Peter answered pretty quickly, and Peter was one of those guys who did seem to speak very, very quickly. So when Jesus says, but what about you? He asks, who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell, gates of Hades, will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So Peter, even though he was quite a guy who he spoke very, very quickly, very, very out of sorts sometimes, seemed to have spoke out of some wisdom here. He had some experiences with Jesus over this probably last 2 years or so, and saw that he was who he said he was. And he was able to say, you are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God, the Most High God. You are Him. You are the Messiah that's been promised for generation after generation. You are Him. So what's your experience of Jesus? Are you able to say a similar sort of answer? Because even if you say something you don't believe in your heart, even if Jesus was standing before you and you said and asked you, who do you say that I am? And you gave the right answer even if you didn't believe it, that's a big deal. Because he could see through that, can't he? And in that moment, when Peter said, you are the Christ, Son of the living God, Jesus knew that he believed that in his heart. It was coming from his soul. He believed that he was the Christ. It's not about giving just the right answers, the Sunday school answers, as we sometimes say. But in your heart, who is Jesus? So on that day when you are standing before Jesus and he asks you, who do you say that I am? Are you preparing an answer? Have you got an answer prepared? Do you hang out with him enough to be able to declare that he is the Christ, he is the Messiah. So what do we declare as us, the people? How do we live throughout the week? Do we declare our faith, our belief, who Jesus is to us? How do we declare that from day to day? Do we declare that from day to day in our lives? Or do we hide it? So we're Christians, aren't we? I think everyone in this room, I can assume that you come to church, that you believe who Jesus is, that he's the Son of God. But how do we declare that? Because we don't walk around, sort of saying, oh, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God every day, do we? We don't do it like that. But do we declare that Jesus is Lord by the things we say, things we do, the actions we show? Because before William Booth, in his speech, he said, I need to go out and feed the poor. I need to clothe the people that don't have any clothes. I need to be able to do something. I need to declare my faith, my love for Jesus in my actions. I just can't keep it to myself. So he declared it with his words, but also declared it with his actions. So the people that are closest to us, maybe like our family, our friends, even the people here in the church, when we see you, do we see your declaration of Christ being Lord, being the Son of God, through the things you do, through the things you say, who you are? So I think it should overflow to that, shouldn't it? Once we in our hearts, we can truly say to Jesus, I believe that you are the Son of God, you are the Christ. It can't just stop there, can it? It comes out as declarations in so many different ways. People should see Jesus in us as a part of our declaration of our faith. Some of you, well, hopefully most of you will know, so on the wall over there, we've got the doctrines of the Salvation Army. They're the 11 statements of what we believe as the Salvation Army. It might be interesting for you to look at them if you haven't looked at them for a long time, or you haven't looked at them at all. They're also in the back of the songbooks, up the back too. It talks about what we believe, the things that are most dearest to us. Almost our declaration of faith in some ways, isn't it? The things that we believe, and all of them start with we believe for that reason. Do you agree with them? It'd be interesting for me to ask you, do you agree with those 11 statements over there? And if not, why not? Because we believe that they have come from the Bible. All 11 of those should be summaries of what the Bible says. It sort of starts with, we believe that the scriptures of the Old and New Testaments were given by inspiration of God. And everything that this book tells us is true because it's from God. There's a few chapters back, so we're reading in Matthew 16 today, but back in Matthew chapter 10, verse 32, it says this. Jesus says, whoever acknowledges me before men, I will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before men, I will disown them before my Father in heaven. Ouch. That can hurt, can't it? Sometimes it is hard for us to declare our faith with our families, with our friends in public. But if we actually acknowledge Jesus is the Son of God before men, Jesus will acknowledge us before his Father, our Heavenly Father in heaven, which is what I want. I want to be known by the Father. I want to be loved by the Creator of the universe. I'm pretty sure he knows me. Pretty sure he knows all of us, doesn't he? He knows us, he loves us, he knows us better than we know ourselves. And he wants us to acknowledge him as God, as Jesus as Son of God, that they are sovereign. What a beautiful place to be in. We've sung about it already this morning. Jesus, what a beautiful name. Son of God, Son of Man, Lamb that was slain. He's the one that brings us peace, happiness, joy, freedom. And the simple truth that Jesus loves me. Knowing and being able to declare that he is Christ, he's the Son of God, and then knowing that Jesus loves me, I don't have any words to describe that. So today, what do you need to declare? Have you made that declaration before? That Jesus is Lord for you? Because I can say it up the front here that Jesus is my Lord and my Saviour. If you can't declare that yourself, I can't declare that for you, can I? So do you need to make a declaration this morning about who Jesus is to you. And often people ask, oh, well, if this was your last day, if you knew this was your last day here on earth, what do you need to declare? Do you need to say something to Jesus today? It's almost like this time next year, isn't it, that we started with the show. This time next year, I want to have achieved this. There's some things that you need to fix in your life. So this time next year, you might be in a better place with Jesus. Do you need to spend more time with Him reading His Word? Are you not maybe in a good place today to be able to declare that He is Lord? And that's fine, as long as you're on the journey towards that. So maybe that this time next year, you can say with all your heart, soul, mind and strength that He is everything to you. You are the Christ, Son of the living God. Do you believe that? That Jesus was just that? He was Christ, the Son of the living God. If not today, that's fine, as long as you're thinking about it. And maybe this time next year you can be in that place where you're all in. You've thrown everything in your whole life, that you can declare with everything that you have that He's Lord. But I think it comes down to that. Everything that we ever do will come down to the answering to that one question. When Jesus stands before you and says, "Who do you say that I am?" That's the biggest declaration you will ever make. We're going to play a song in a second called Jesus, Name Above All Names. Just to give you some time to think about it if you need that this morning. It only goes for about 3.5 minutes. If you want to think about it, how you would answer that question when Jesus stands in front of you and asks you, this is not something you can escape either. When Jesus stands before you and asks you, "Who do you say that I am?" It's not that you can turn around and walk away, can you? You can't. You can't turn away from Jesus. But think about it while we play this song. What does it mean to you? In your heart, how would you seriously answer? Because if you say an answer that isn't reflected in your heart, Jesus will know that. He'll see straight through that. If you want some prayer this morning, feel free to come forward and we'll pray with you. If you want to spend some time at the mercy seat, even though it's up a few stairs, do that. But think about how you're going to answer that question when Jesus asks you, "Who do you say that I am?" Think about it. Thanks, Pete. We'll play the song, Jesus, Name Above All Names.